Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming to our reassessment town hall meeting. My name is PJ LaBelle. I am Chris Shermack's solicitor, and this is our second town hall meeting regarding reassessment. We conducted one down at Lackawanna College about a month ago, I would say. First, I want to thank Abington Heights for hosting this and providing this facility, the microphones, everything you see here. Obviously, we couldn't have done it without their help. I am truly an understudy on this stage because this job was supposed to be that Howard Rothenberg would handle it, but he's under the thumb of a federal judge right now, and he's not allowed to leave the courthouse in Wilkes-Barre till he hammers out a deal. So you have me. We're here because there are widespread concerns regarding reassessment and how it's going to affect every property owner in Lackawanna County. There's over 110,000 properties in Lackawanna County that were reassessed or revalued. And the statements of those valuations were just sent out on June 20th, Friday, June 20th. They had to go out on Friday, June 20th because they have to be out 40 days before the appeal period starts, and that starts on August 1st. Tonight, we're going to hear from a panel of people that I call friends and people that I believe are experts in their field. Commissioner Chermak is going to talk about various issues, including clean and green, including some of the concerns he's been hearing as he's traveling around the county. We have Attorney Pat Lavelle to Chris's left. Attorney Pat Lavelle has been a member of the bar for over 50 years. He's been involved in private practice. He's focused on residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial real estate, conveyancing of properties, financing, zoning appeals, subdivisions, and land development. As long as I have known Pat Lavelle, he has been at the top of the attorneys in Lackawanna County that handle real estate matters. And when I have questions, I go to Pat. Next to him is Attorney Anthony Loma, who I have the pleasure of practicing in the same building with, and he always surprises me with his intelligence. Again, he is very well versed in real estate, which is why he's up here. I forgot to mention that Attorney Lavelle will be dealing with the commercial industrial aspects of reassessment. Attorney Loma, who has been in private practice since 1983, he's been in-house counsel to several public utilities. He's been in private practice since 2003. He's been an assistant Lackawanna County solicitor for 10 years. He's been an attorney for the Lackawanna County Judicial Tax Sales, and he was the chairman and member of the Scranton Planning Commission for 10 years. He will be addressing residential real estate concerns. And at the end, last but not least, is J. Conrad Bosley. Conrad is a graduate of the Wharton School of Finance and Commerce at the University of Pennsylvania. He's a certified residential appraiser since 1991, and he will be addressing the need for appraisals, how you go about finding someone to do the appraisal, and how it will benefit you if and when you appeal your assessed values. We're encouraging active participation at the end of the presentation with questions and answers. We again want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to be here. And I see a lot of people in the back, which is fine if that's where you want to be, but this isn't church and we're not going to be passing a basket. So if you want to move down front, you're more than welcome to. So without further ado, I will introduce Commissioner Chris Shermack, who has been fighting for the residents and taxpayers of Lackawanna County throughout this whole process. Chris?
Thank you, everybody. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate your efforts. We're all here to help you guys. I want to thank Abington Heights again for allowing us to be here. Our first reassessment town hall was at Lackawanna College, like PJ said, and it was successful. So now that the letters went out, I'm glad to have everyone here tonight. Hopefully we can get some answers. I can tell you it's a little strange for me. The last time I was on this stage was in 1981 when I was a high school graduate here, so it's good to be back. I'm going to hold that. So it's been it's been 60 years since we've had a reassessment. So that's the number one issue. It's been put off and put off and put off. I became a commissioner a little over 5 years ago. The world shut down. We all know what happened then. And after that, we started to try to get things going again. And next thing you know, they wanted to initiate a reassessment. I was totally against that at that time, understanding that I know that we need a reassessment. I understand that the values are incorrect. Some are paying too much, some are paying too little, but we're right in the middle of a pandemic. I thought that was poor timing. People were out of work, places were shut down. I had issues with that. The majority commissioners did approve it, so here we are. Then it comes to last year, which was another battle that I had, was the massive tax increase that we were blessed with last year, 33%. So you put that on top of a reassessment, increased values, increased taxes. This is not good for anybody. So I have some concerns, and that's why I've been wanting to do this and get everybody here to get questions answered. But remember, I'm on your side. This has to be right. Before we can move forward, the numbers have to be right. We can't move forward with bad information. We can't move forward with values on properties that were, you know, I had just bare land. That's a problem with no buildings on it. The values are, as far as I can see, very out of whack. We have properties that are landlocked, connected to another, you know, my backyard or whatever that parcel is, and they're putting values on it $45,000, $55,000, $65,000 for a little parcel. It's wrong. They know that. They got to make the correction. Then we see properties, commercial properties, which are taking a big hit. I won't mention any names, but there's a mall in Scranton. He got his new assessed value is $127 million. I think on a good day, if I was going to buy them all, which I'm not going to buy them all, but I'd probably be somewhere in the low 20 millions. So it's only about $100 million off. So problem. So there's a lot of commercial, a lot of industrial that I think are going to have issues, and we need to really make sure these numbers are right. You know, that mall could easily be sold to a nonprofit. They're already paying about $500,000 in taxes every year. So if he sells that to a nonprofit, we get nothing. So it's got to be right. So that's a lot of my issues. Another huge issue for me. Sorry, Mark, I'm moving around a little bit. Okay. No safeguards in place. What about people on fixed incomes? These are the questions I'm asking. What about people on fixed incomes? What about the elderly surviving on, to quote a person that I met, $11,000 a year Social Security? Well, she can't afford another penny. And I know the other commissioners said, well, we'll put them on payment plans if they can't, you know. They don't have the money. That's the bottom line. They can't afford it. So We have to have safeguards in place. We can do deferments. We can do we can freeze where they are until they're out of their homes. There's a lot of things that other counties do that we can do. The other thing is, when are we going to do this again? Are we going to wait 50, 60 years? Or are we going to put a plan in place? I have not heard yet. So, I'm watching that as well. So there's a lot of concerns that I have. I'm not ready to just pull this trigger. The one reason why they wanted so hard to get that tax increase through is because you can't raise taxes in a reassessment year. So next year coming, they can't raise them. So it's already done, so don't worry. They got that covered. The other thing is, like I said, the safeguards. We got to take care of that. We can't move forward. We can't flip that switch until we have a plan in place. I'll cover clean and green a little bit later and a couple of the other things that are going on. But, I have my own concerns. I'm not ready to pass a budget. There's only 2 commissioners right now. We don't have a third. I don't know when we're going to have a third. That seems to be the question of the day, the week, the month, or the year. I don't know. It's in the hands of the courts. When they're done appealing and the courts finally decide, we'll get an answer, and then I'll find out who's going to be on the 6th floor with me. But as it stands right now, I am not going to vote for a budget that I don't like or that I'm not involved in, or if there's issues with a reassessment that I don't like, I'm not just approving it. I didn't do it the last time. I'm not going to do it this time. So until we have the corrections and the numbers are correct, then I'll move forward. If we just go through it this year and approve these values and come up with a new millage, and then next year all the appeals go through, that just goofs up all the work that was done. It's going to change the millage. So it just can't happen. I would like to postpone it till next year when we can get all these hearings through and get people, at least for the most part, everybody in agreement with what their new assessment is and what their new taxes are. So to me, that would be the smartest thing to do, the easiest thing to do. Makes sense to me. So that's what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm working on. I'll continue to fight that. But I'm going to turn this back over to PJ, and we'll hear from our other panelists. And again, these people are volunteering their time, so I appreciate you being here with me tonight. They don't have to do this, but, they want to help too, so I appreciate that.
Thanks, Chris. Chris mentioned one horror story. I can give you another horror story. Friends of mine and friends of some of the people up here own a small business in downtown Scranton. They're on a lot that's 40 by 60 feet with a 1 or 2 story former house that was turned into a small business. They got their valuation of $2.1 million. So there's problems out there. Another one I can tell you is my own father owns a piece of property about 6 acres, but to get to it, you have to go down a 50-foot wide right-of-way, 50 feet wide by about 120 feet long. That right-of-way is vacant land. It cannot be built on because it's a right-of-way, and they valued it at $62,000. I went to the informal appeal and discussed it with the person who was handling it, and I asked them for the comparables, and they said, we don't have comparables for vacant land. So maybe they're wrong, maybe they're right, but if you have a piece of vacant land, I think it behooves you to look into the value and make sure that they're at least in the ballpark, because on this piece, they're not even in the same state, let alone the ballpark. At this time, I would ask Attorney Tony Lohman to come up and talk about reassessment with regard to residential properties, which I'm sure is an issue for most of the people sitting here today. Tony, you can do it from there?
I'm going to do it from here. Thank you, PJ.
Yep.
As Chris mentioned, it's been almost 60 years since last reassessment. It's new to most of us. I was alive when I was a kid, and nobody cared back then. The real estate assessments are governed by Pennsylvania statute, and it's the Consolidated County Assessment Law. As everybody knows or should know, your taxes are based on two factors. Whatever your assessed value is times the millage. And the millage is a certain amount per $1,000 of the assessed value. The county or any municipality figures out, okay, we have a $100 million budget that we pass. We got to divide that by all the total assessed value in our district, and that's how they come up with a millage. The old assessment obviously was not 100% of your fair market value. I live in Scranton, and the houses there might be assessed at $12,000, $15,000, $20,000. Obviously, the houses aren't worth that. So it's difficult, especially during the informal process, to estimate, are my taxes going to go up or going to go down? There was nothing to compare with. Now Lackawanna County has on their website, under public documents, you go to the assessor's office, you can see in the left hand, you type in your name or your address, and on the left hand side, it'll tell you what your 2026 assessment is. But more importantly, you could check your neighbors now. You can see, oh, my neighbor has, similar house, they're assessed at, $50,000 more, $50,000 less. Before, you never could do that until when they issued the new assessments. So that's an advantage. We all went through, and I hope everybody went through the informal process first. I had a client who went into the informal, and he had to notice his taxes, his house was assessed at $250,000. And they said the comparables show that. But the comparables were for a remodeled house, hardwood floors, new bathrooms, new kitchen, new appliances. Client had taken pictures of the inside of their house, and they got their assessment reduced $50,000 down to $200,000. So the informal process was very important. Obviously, when you go to the formal appeal process now, I think those are factors that you can bring forward. The biggest thing you should remember tonight, August 1st is the deadline to appeal. You have till August 1st, and that means the appeal has to be in hand at the assessor's office at the Globe store. And there's a $35 filing fee for residential. Pat's going to cover the commercial end of it. One of the things is the assessor's office has, the first hearing is going to be August 1st. So anybody who files now will probably be first in line. They have August, right, Chris, September and October to hear the hearings. They have the regular board of, one board of 3 members and 4 auxiliary boards of 3 members. I don't know if you had covered this tonight yet or not. And so they have 5 boards. They figure, Tyler figured they could do 7,500 appeals. The appeals board will go from 9 to 4 with a lunch break 5 days a week. If there's more than 7,500 appeals, if there's 10,000, 15,000, I don't see how it's physically possible for them to hear double the amount they allotted for in a 3-month period. But one of the things on the residential appeals, and if many of you are from the Abingtons, this might be important for the value of your properties. If your assessed value of your land, including improved property, is $700,000 or more, you need a state certified appraisal. And speaking later will be Conrad, who is an appraiser who can explain all that. If you just have raw land, no improvements, if it's more valued for assessed $150,000 or more, you need a certified state appraisal. Problem is, these appraisals have to be in 2 weeks before the hearing. So that's going to cut down your time frame to go out and get an appraisal. So one of the things is, if you're mandatory to have an appraisal done if you're appealing, or if you want one, which I think I suggest people get one. Get your appraisal done immediately, and then set your hearing date and appeal so you have time to do it. But again, August 1st is the most important date you should take away tonight. October 31st is, under statutes, the last day to hear appeals, and then the county, under the statute, is November 15th. I think the county said November 14th. They got to relay the tax assessment rolls to all the municipalities, your school district, your borough, township, city, so they can do, and then get ready to send out their tax bills. But again, I strongly suggest getting an appraisal, and if you're mandatory to get one, either way, contact an appraiser immediately, because I'm assuming they're going to be relatively busy. You'll go into the Board of Assessment Appeals. There'll be the 3-member board there, and they're going to have what Tyler did in their comparables. And again, you got to check in the comparables if it's a finished house that was totally remodeled versus one that hasn't been touched in 20, 30 years. You might have the same square feet, the same number of bathrooms, same number of bedrooms, but there's a big difference between having a totally refinished house that they're using as a comparable and your house that hasn't been updated. So you go into the appeal board, you present your evidence, and then you'll leave, and the 3 members will sit and decide, okay, should it be 200,000, 220, 300, whatever. And they'll get a written decision. And I believe it's a 30 days, Pat, to appeal. You'll have a 30-day appeal period to the Court of Common Pleas. And at that point, I believe you should get an attorney when you go into the appeals board, but you're going to need an attorney for the Court of Common Pleas. There's certain rules, the county has local rules regarding appeals, you service on certain people, and filing certificates of service. You miss any of that, your appeal is thrown out. Now, some people may say, hey, I'll wait till I get my tax bill next year, 2026. Well, you get your tax bill and you don't like it, obviously you have the right to appeal then, but that's for 2027's taxes. You will have to pay 2026 taxes at your higher assessed value. And so there's no going back on that. So, if you really believe your assessed values are too high, get an appraisal, get an attorney, and appeal this year. But again, August 1st, $35 fee. The applications are online on the county website, and we'll answer questions later and give it back to PJ.
Thanks, Tony. And in my humble opinion, it may be the best $35 you spend to file that appeal, especially if you're not sure, you want to consult with some experts. But if you get that appeal filed, you may lose the $35 if you decide not to move forward. But if you don't get it filed, you're paying the taxes for 2026 and not being able to appeal till 2027. The other thing I think is important to mention is that when you file an appeal, not only do you get a notice 20 days before your appeal hearing, the school district that you're in and the local municipality gets a notice, and they have the right to send their representatives, who will probably be attorneys there, to dispute your request to lower your assessment. So I think you have to understand, it's not just the county that you may be having to deal with. It could very well be the school district and the municipality that you live in.
PJ, before you go, one point I forgot. You got to remember, if you appeal your assessment and it goes down, that's not 1 year savings. That's as long as you own the house. So, you may save $500 or $1,000 in taxes, but that's just 2026. That's going forward too. So that's important, that your savings are the length of the time you own the house. And if your assessment is lower, you have a better, if you ever do decide to sell your house, buyers look at what's the house assessed at, what the taxes are, and that's important too. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. And this whole process started with everybody getting a data sheet from Tyler Technology saying what they believe your house information was. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, basement, was the basement finished, how many car garage. In a lot of cases, that information was incorrect, and if you did not correct it when you received that data sheet, and it's not in your favor, then that's another reason you may want to file an appeal and spend the $35 to do that. Next, I'd like to introduce Attorney Pat Lavelle. Pat's going to cover the commercial property challenges, the valuation increases, the impact on businesses, which again, in my opinion, could be great. If a business is surviving now on the taxes they're paying and those taxes go up on their commercial property, it may put them out of business or really put a strain on it. And if it doesn't, they could be passing the additional costs on to you. And if it's a landlord who has a commercial property, he's going to pass it on to his tenants. So it's very important to appeal these and get the numbers right, which is what Chris was alluding to, that while 90% of the appraisals may be correct, and I'm just pulling that number out of the air, that 10% that isn't correct out of 110,000 properties is enough to cause a lot of heartache for people. So if we're successful and we get reassessment pushed back to starting in 2027, it would give us all of 2026 to solve those problems on maybe that 10% or 5% or 15% that aren't correct. Pat's also going to address, as I said, the impact on small businesses and landlords, and be able to give you guidance for these commercial owners who own a piece of property and how they should proceed. So, Pat, if you'd like to step up.
Good evening, everybody. As I've been introduced a couple of times now, I'm Attorney Pat Lavelle. I've been a practicing attorney here in Lackawanna County for approximately 50 years, specializing in real estate practice, and I've helped hundreds of people with assessment appeals. Initially, what I'd like to do is to recommend that each commercial property owner who is dissatisfied with their new proposed reassessment contact their lawyer and/or an appraiser and see to it that they understand the financial impact of the change in their assessment. I'm going to stick close to exactly what the new procedure is because it is new. It's important to recognize.
Mark said you don't have to hold it. It's causing a problem if you can.
Okay.
Or you can take it out if you want to take it.
Could I do it like that?
Yeah, that's
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, so it's important to recognize that the new procedure, which is utilized by the Lackawanna County Board of Assessment, is much different than it was before. Hereafter, I'm going to refer to the Board of Assessment as simply the board. The board is establishing the new assessed values for commercial properties. The new assessments are now referred to as, quote, fair market value, end quote, by the assessor's office or the board. However, these values were provided by Tyler Technologies, not PA certified general appraisers. Taxes are to be levied by the county, school district, and municipalities in the form of millage, as was mentioned before, times the fair market value of the property. Millages will be determined by each separate taxing authority. The board, it's incumbent upon the board to justify the new fair market value of the property at a hearing, where it's correspondingly the responsibility of the property owner to rebut that valuation. Now, what about hearings before the board? Well, hearings before the board have changed. Why have they changed? Well, In order to challenge the new fair market value, an appeal by the property owner or their lawyer must be filed with the Board of Assessment. The deadline for filing that is 31 days from today, August the 1st. You must use the board's form or application to do this. And what I wanted to bring to your attention is some of the contents of this form which were not on previous applications for appeals. For example, you have to specifically indicate whether the property is commercial, office, industrial, or other, and specify what that use is. Provide the gross square footage of rental area, whether it's owner-occupied or tenant-occupied. If it's leased, what's the annual rent? And what is the date the facility or building was constructed? What's the total square footage of the plant area? And what's the lease type? Is it net or gross? And all of that information must be provided with the appeal. I strongly recommend that if you are dissatisfied with the commercial property owner's advice, what has been provided as a new valuation, then you should get an appraisal from a PA certified general appraiser so that you have an opinion of fair market value that you can rely on at a hearing. Because of the technicalities involved and the necessity to make a good presentation, you should seriously consider retaining the services of a lawyer to represent you in the appeal process. That will be the process in front of the Board of Assessment Appeals and any subsequent appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. The fair market value utilized by the Assessor's Office is not based upon opinions of PA certified appraisers. They're not. Instead, these new opinions of fair market value appeal to be a compromise of what representatives of Tyler Technologies thought was the fair market value of the property, even though none of the representatives of Tyler are certified general appraisers in Pennsylvania. Ideally, PA certified general appraisers should prepare appraisal reports that are based on one of three approaches to value. The first is comparable sales of similar property. The second is cost to construct the buildings and other improvements, along with the value of the land in which they will be constructed. Or third, income such as rental income generated by businesses conducted on the property. The testimony of a PA certified general appraiser along with their appraisal reports should be provided at a hearing before the board. Challenging the accuracy of the board's opinion of fair market value, you can expect all of these hearings to become contentious, and they usually are. If the board fails to respect the testimony and appraisal report of a PA certified general appraiser and renders an unfavorable decision, then the property owner is able to appeal the decision of the board to the Lackawanna County Court of Common Pleas within 30 days. Once again, a relatively short period of time. And at that hearing in front of the judge, you would have the opportunity to seek reversal of the board's decision. The judge is always going to be requested to enter an opinion of fair market value based upon the appropriate approach to the valuation of the property presented on the appraisal report of the certified appraiser. Unless the board presents testimony and an appraisal of a PA certified general appraiser, the board should not be able to rebut your appraiser's opinions in the Court of Common Pleas. Obviously, from what I've detailed for you, the short time deadlines for appeals to the board and to the court are quite unfair to the property owner, and that's something that really should be addressed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. I know everybody appreciates that. And just to underscore a point that Pat and Tony both made, a bad appraisal is the gift that keeps on taking from your wallet as long as that bad appraisal stands. So this is your opportunity, and you only have until August 1st to exercise that opportunity. Next, I would like to bring up our professional appraiser, J. Conrad Bosley. He's going to talk about comparables, the definition of comparables, the role of appraisers, with regard to Tyler Technologies findings and tips for getting strong comps if you choose to go it on your own. If you choose to hire an appraiser, they'll help you with that, but Conrad will address both. Thanks, Conrad. Come on up.
Thanks, PJ. One of the things that I have heard from the public who have been calling me since they received their initial valuation from Tyler Technologies is, what am I going to do with this number? The first question that I ask the people when they call me, if I were to show up your front door tomorrow with that money, a bag of cash, would you sell me your house? And if your answer is no, my house is worth a lot more than that, usually they're amazed by that question. They say, oh, I take it and run. So if you give me the take it and run answer to that question, I think you are making a mistake. Not making a mistake. You always have the right to appeal, but you have to have grounds for that appeal. One of the things that they want you to do, and it states in, if your property is worth less or assessed at less than $700,000, they want you to produce photos and assess values for 3 comparable properties that were sold between January 1st of 2022 and June 30th, 2024, a year ago today. Properties should be of similar style, quality, and or condition, living space within 500 square feet, and located in the same developed municipality and school district. They make it sound very simple. But one of the things that we realize in real estate, that no two properties are identical unless you live in a house that was built by the same builder in the same development, the same square footage, and built within the same period of time as your house. So what you have to do is, usually, I suggest, don't hire an appraiser first. If you have a friend who's a realtor who might have information to the data that's not available to the general public about homes that have sold in your neighborhood. And what happens is they want them to be within a certain area, and they want similar square footage. Now, what happens as an appraiser, when I am going out to appraise a property, usually for an estate, a divorce, a bank loan or something similar to that, the requirements are the same for these appraisals. But what happens is you are usually expanding the area to find the same square footage. You can't find the same house that sold in the same neighborhood, same school district, and same amenities. So you have to try to find this information, and I would suggest checking with the realtor, or if you call me, I could help you or give you a source where you might find that. The letter from the Board of Assessment Appeals says, if the subject property is improved with a total assessed value of $700,000 or more, or if unimproved land, a value of $150,000 or more, a certified state appraisal effective between those dates must be filed 2 weeks before the hearing. No exceptions, and if an appraisal is not filed 2 weeks prior to the hearing date, your appeal will not be heard. So if you're in that category where your assessed valuation, the letter that you just received from Tyler Services and the county, is more than $700,000, and you believe that your home is not worth as much as their indicated value, I would suggest contacting an appraiser to have a valuation done and see that if you have a ground to stand on to appeal this. One of the things that you have to realize, though, is, number one, appraisers cannot testify before a board of assessment appeal. They can be called as an expert witness by an attorney, but you have to be, if you're going to appeal it and have an appraiser present, you must go through the process of hiring an attorney and having the certified appraiser act as a witness, as a qualified witness before the courts. So that whole process takes time. So once again, I would suggest that if that's the process you want to go through, that you do it as quickly as possible, and also get your hearing date scheduled as soon as possible. I have found throughout Lackawanna County, people that have talked to me about valuing land. I have no idea how Tyler Technology valued vacant land in Lackawanna County. I have seen, you've heard people say about the different valuations on different properties. I have people with a quarter an acre of land that it's in Newton Township. In Newton Township, you need 2 acres of land to build a home. So a person with a quarter of an acre or an acre of land in Newton Township is stuck if they have a piece of vacant land in that, in that size. It's not buildable, it's not marketable, and the only value that it has is as an incremental package, an incremental part to their original appraised property. Is there anyone here from Scranton? Just raise the city of Scranton. Okay, well, the reason I ask that is because the assessment report that we received within the past 3 or 4 days broke out the value of your land and the value of the improvements. The city of Scranton is the only municipality in Lackawanna County that taxes land at a different rate, a different millage than the improvements. So if anybody's from Scranton and want to talk to me, I can discuss that later. But once again, get the information, see if you can find comparable sales in your area. There are, as I said, there's Realtor.com, there's Zillow, where you can look to find properties that have sold, that are similar to your property, that have transferred between January 1st, 2022 and June 30th, 2024. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Conrad. Again, I think it's important to underscore a point that Conrad made, is they want you, meaning the assessor's office in the county wants you to find a sale of a property from January 1st of 2022 until June 30th of 2024, correct? Of the same size, similar size, same location, etc. We live in a pretty stable community, especially up here in the Avenues. There's not as much turnover as they're anticipating, so it might be hard to find a house in your development that sold during that period that mimics the size and configuration of your house. In addition, and again, this is my own disclaimer, this is my own opinion, that period from January 1st of 2022 until June 30th of 2024, I believe the property values, sale prices were artificially elevated due to us coming out of COVID. And you may recall when we went into COVID, people were buying anything and everything for exorbitant amounts of money. They were coming from Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, and buying properties. We may not see those prices again for a long time in this area. So I think it's important to seek professional help, to consider filing an appeal, because you're given us a 30-month window to find these properties, and then you have to prove that they're data-wise very, very similar to yours. So just food food for thought. Chris, you're going to want to come up once more, right? Chris is going to come up and sort of wrap things up, but we have a microphone here on the floor, and we'd love you to come up with any questions you have. If they're simple questions, the panel can answer them. They can probably answer complex questions, but we want to be mindful of everybody's time and giving everybody an opportunity to come up and ask their question. So at some point, I may ask you to stick around after this town hall, and the panel will stick around and help you with any very detailed questions you may have. So Chris, want to come up and wrap up?
Well, a couple of things that I wanted to cover are some of the incentives that you can use. But that was a good point what PJ brought up, that the period that we're using to value or to compare our houses to was the housing boom. Now interest rates have shot up. I think the house prices have come down. So it's not an accurate, to me, that's not a fair comparison. So I'm going to fight my own, and I'm going to get some comparisons, but I'm also going to get values and some comparisons from houses that are on the market now and what they're asking, because I think you're going to see a difference between a year or so ago and what they're asking now. We'll see. A couple things that are available, especially in the outskirts and in some of the more rural areas, are Clean and Green, that program that's out there. Clean and Green is something that is for people that own property that's 10 acres or more. And if you have 10 acres or more, you can apply for the Clean and Green program. That's state law, which thanks to Keith Eckel, which he fought for that here many years ago and got it to Pennsylvania to utilize it. Unfortunately, Lackawanna County didn't recognize it, so they didn't apply the common law ratio, the right numbers to the program. So it's been ineffective until now. That's one good thing about the reassessment. They're going to utilize these numbers. It's going to drastically, as much as 70% less of what your taxes will be. So anybody that owns property like that, 10 acres or more, apply for the Clean and Green program. You're going to benefit tremendously. Now, there are some things with that. If you decide you want to sell your property, subdivide your property, sell it off, there's penalties. You can get out of the Clean and Green program. They're going to go back a few years. They're going to get the tax money that you would have owed plus some interest. So you will pay back some taxes, but you would have saved some in the meantime. Other things that are out there is the Homestead Act. You put your house in the homestead. If it's your primary home, you'll get some discounts there. Being at your homestead, on your school taxes, it'll be applied. I did that with my own house, and that's what everybody should do. For veterans, if you're 100% disabled, you don't have to pay property tax, and that's wartime veterans. There's different periods, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and you had to be wounded during the war. But if you're 100% disabled, you get your tax deferred. Now, I talked earlier about safeguards. I'm going to still push for that. I talked about deferrals, people on fixed incomes. There's circuit breaker programs that they put in place. They freeze their assessments where they are now. There's gradual phase-ins of increases. That's what some other counties do. So other counties are addressing these problems, and they have things in place. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can apply these. So I'm trying to get that through as well. I think that's really all I wanted to add on some of the discounts that are available. I think we can start asking if anybody has questions. I'd really like you to come up, and we'll do our best to answer them.
You could take this off.
Thanks, Chris. And that bill that Chris was talking about with regard to veterans being disabled from, who served in wartime, I believe there's a bill being introduced in the state legislature that would extend that to non-wartime fully disabled veterans. So you should keep your eyes and ears open for that.
I can add to that, too. I've been talking with our new Congressman, Rob Bresnahan. I've asked him to look into looking at legislation to, if a veteran passes away, that the benefits go to the surviving spouse. So that's something that they don't have now. He's going to be looking into that. He liked the idea, so I'm hoping that maybe we can get some help. I just lost a good friend, not just last week, veteran, and you know, his wife now does not have anything. So hopefully he can do that. That would be nice.
Okay. Want to come up? We'll go this side, then this side. We'll go back and forth. Come on, sir. Would you state your name and where you're from, please?
Gary Duncan from Dunmore. This is the first meeting I've been at. I missed the one that was held back at Lackawanna College. So some of the questions I have may be redundant, but I would still very much appreciate it. And if you could help me out, the length of time, if we do appeal, and what is the length of time that they give us for a hearing? Do we have 15 minutes? Is there a time frame?
The county, or Tyler County scheduled 15-minute increments, but I think you have the ability, you'd be prejudiced if you didn't have time to present all your evidence. So I don't think they would cut you short, but Conrad, what do you know?
I had previously served on the Board of Assessment Appeals of Lackawanna County, and usually on residential appraisals, single family resident, we, most of them were taken care of within 5 to 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Now, and you just present your case. There may be some questions, but I mean, it's not going to be a total adversarial relationship. You'll present your relations. They probably ask some questions that are germane to your specific property, and maybe question about the comparables, but it isn't a long process.
Okay. And then my next question is, and I heard several of you gentlemen mention that the use of an attorney for this, and it's probably not a fun question to ask, but what's the standard fee to have an attorney represent you if we go through this appeals process?
Well, there's 3 attorneys up here. I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, no, I'm sorry, Conrad, I'm looking at you, but anybody can answer the question.
I mean, the appeal process in front of the Board of Assessment Appeals, as Conrad said, is it should be relatively quick, and that won't be expensive. But if you go to the Court of Common Pleas, now you're going to have to file a complaint. There'll be answers done to the complaint filed by the municipalities, maybe some discovery, and that can chew up some money.
Oh, wow.
But remember, whatever you save is not 1 year saving, it's a continuation of savings. And also I wanted to bring up another point. If you get an appraisal done, you can use that at the Board of Assessment Appeals. But now, as Conrad mentioned, you have your expert witness not only there, but then when you go to the Court of Common Pleas.
But I have to have an attorney to have the appraiser testify, correct?
Well, he would be would call the appraiser as an expert witness. Okay. And if you're going to bring an appraiser in, you probably should have an attorney, because it's more of a formalized than just saying, hey, here's my pictures, here's my my values. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Gary, the other question you have to ask yourself, though, is what's it going to cost you if you don't?
Right.
And as Tony said, if you're living in your house and you're going to be there another 20 or 30 years, there's a lot of money you could be leaving on the table.
Right. I know there's a lot of folks that want to speak, but in response to that, I can say this. I'm on Social Security. I'm sure there's a lot of people here in the audience. I'm a former chairman for the Pennsylvania Council on Aging. I represented 67 counties, 52 AAAs.
I know.
I don't know how they did the improvements, how they came up with them. I have my letter with me. I'm absolutely flabbergasted, but I can tell you this. I'm just going to throw some numbers at you. And I wish our other commissioner was here tonight, and I wish other elected officials were as well. Lackawanna County, 12% of this county's disabled population. Our poverty level for Lackawanna County is at 14%. Those are numbers that are significant. They're not going to be able to afford an attorney or to get an appraiser. The median income, I live in Dunmore. Our median income level, anybody here can find this on U.S. Fast Check, the U.S. Census Fast Check, $37,494. That's the median income. So how are we going to be able to afford this? This is what I've heard my entire life. I'm 72, never missed an election, ever. I take great pride in that. But this is what I can tell you. My entire life, I've heard politicians on all sides say that they want to keep us, the senior citizens, in our homes. 33%, never-ending utility rate increases. We're going to lose the roofs over our heads. And then guess who has to take care of us when we live in a county high-rise? That comes back to the taxpayers. So that's really where this assessment is. I'm heartbroken that our other commissioner isn't here tonight to answer these questions. I thank all of you for showing up, and I thank the rest of the people who want to speak for allowing me the time to ask you my questions. Thank you.
Point well taken, Gary. Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm going to talk to all of you. I'm not good at effective speaking. I'm going to read this off my phone.
Excuse me. Just could you state your name and where you're from for the record, please?
My name is Joe Mayer, and I'm from Jessup. We are here today united because we face a crisis that threatens our homes, our livelihoods, our very way of life. The county's 33% tax increase and flawed property reassessment by Tyler Technologies have pushed us to the breaking point. For too long, we've been ignored, dismissed, and burdened by a system that seems to care little for the people it claims to serve, especially our elderly, our neighbors on fixed incomes who now fear losing their homes they've worked a lifetime to keep. This reassessment, the first since 1968, sent shockwaves through the communities. Property values skyrocketed, some jumping from $20,000 to $200,000 overnight. And while county officials call it revenue neutral, a promise to lower millage taxes, we know the truth. The new valuations could mean tax bills that many of us, especially our seniors, simply cannot afford. Without clear protections or relief programs, our most vulnerable are at risk of being taxed right out of their home. This is not just unfair, it's unconscionable. The process itself is a mess. Tyler Technologies paid over $5 million of our tax dollars, has delivered valuations that feel arbitrary based on aerial imagery or neighborhood sales that don't reflect the reality of our properties. The appeals process, it's a maze designed to overwhelm, from informal reviews to formal appeals requiring evidence like comparable sales or photos of property damage. It's a burden too heavy for many, especially our elderly, to navigate alone. And with up to 10,000 appeals inspected, the system is set to buckle under the weight of our collective frustration. We've tried to be heard. We've attended these town halls, hoping for answers, only to find a false sense of hope. These meetings let us air our grievances, but they offer no real solutions. The majority of officials in our county, alongside Tyler Technologies, acts like a juggernaut, unstoppable, unaccountable, and indifferent to our struggles. They've shown us they don't care, but we are here to say we will not be bent over and forced to take it anymore. So what do? We rise up together. The only path forward is to fight back with the strength of our unity. Perhaps we can form a class action lawsuit against Lackawanna County and Tyler Technologies, and now mentioning the school boards and municipalities with their attorneys. And by the way, who could afford an attorney? Retainer fees can be upwards $1,500, $2,500, $5,000, $7,500, and you're up against this juggernaut. They have attorneys with endless monies, okay, to argue us. Is this a land grab? I'm just saying. I mean, what do we do here? And we have to pay for it? Why do we have to pay $35 for an appeal? Okay? That doesn't make any sense. Why do we have to pay filing fees? That doesn't make sense. What if it's somebody that doesn't have the money? What if somebody doesn't even have a car? Okay? Or they're not tech savvy enough to go on their website to fill out an appeal, right? Why can't the county maybe perhaps appoint attorneys, a panel of attorneys, to represent us, and not attorneys local, attorneys from Philadelphia or Pittsburgh per se, right? But, you know, also a lawsuit, class action lawsuit, would demand accountability, proof that these assessments are fair and accurate, protections for our elderly on fixed income neighbors, and a forensic audit to uncover where every red cent of our tax dollars has went and is going. We deserve the transparency, we deserve fairness, and we deserve to stay in our homes. This is our moment to send a clear message. We will not tolerate this tyranny. Let's stand together and fight for our homes, our community, and our future, because when we unite, no juggernaut can stand in our way. Have a good night.
Thank you.
PJ, can I clarify something?
Sure, Tone, jump right in.
Just so everybody knows, what your millage is going to go down. It has to be revenue neutral. You're not going to know what the millage is. Here, you can't. If I can explain. Say the municipality has a $100,000 budget, a $100 million yearly budget. I think Lackawanna County is what, 130 or something? 150. But say 100 million, excuse me.
Wait, can
you let me finish, please, and I might answer your question.
Let him finish, and then we can take another question if you'd like to.
A municipality has a $100 million budget. They divide into that what the assessed values are, and that's how you get your millage. The millage is the last thing that is produced in computing your taxes. You don't know what the millage is until you have all the assessed values. So when the assessed values on a house were $12,000, your millage may be $55 per $1,000. But when your assessed value is $200,000, the millage may be five mills per $1,000. You don't know that the millage is the last thing that they calculate to get your taxes. You have your budget, then you have what the total assessed values are in your municipality, and that's how you get your millage.
Right.
I can't hear you.
It would be good if you could come up to the microphone, because this is being filmed by ECTV, and I don't know, Mark, is it live?
Yeah, it's live.
It's live on YouTube, so there may be other people who tune in and they would want to hear what your questions are. So anybody who wants to come up, please do so. And remember one thing, these gentlemen are here of their own accord. They're not being paid to be here, and they're here to help everybody. These people aren't the problem. Yes, sir.
My name is Dale Kecklock from Archbold, and I have a piece of property here. It's 1.9 acres. I just want to know where you get the, who looks at it? Is it AI? Because it's valued here to have $103,930, and I found another one in Archbold here, 22 acres for $15,000, another .92 for $9,000, and let's see, we got another one here, 42 acres for $75,000. So at that rate, I should be a lot lower than $103,000. And then there's the improvements. It has we have a trailer up there. It's not livable, not even for an animal. They have for $3,300. I called the neighbors. He won't even take it away because it's not worth that to take it away. So where did they come up with that? And I remember years ago, because I'm almost 70 years old there, when they got the gambling in here, that was supposed to cut the taxes. Where did that money? Is that like Kids for Cash? Did that go in a politician's pocket somewhere? I'm a researcher. I know more about this county than probably they'd like me to know. But what happened to that money that was supposed to help alleviate the property taxes?
I would have to say those assessed valuations, were those taken from the county website?
Okay, probably aerial Google
No, I
Earth or
mean,
something.
you gave 4 examples.
He's asking you where you got that information.
Where did you get the information? Because I would have to assume that were they...
These properties I just told you about on
Yes.
Zillow.
Yeah.
They're sold, yeah, just the last couple of years on Zillow.
On Zillow?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of
They-
acreage.
That is based on the old assessment. It's not based on today's present assessment. You have to realize that that's what is indicated on Zillow or any, Realtor.com or anything, that when you look at that assessed value, that was the old assessed, not the new assessed.
Well, you told us to do that when you first started the meeting here, look on Zillow and see what the
No, I
properties.
said, look and see what they sold for.
Right, that's what it sold for.
But
That's what it's sold for.
I didn't say check their assessment, because any assessment that's on Zillow does not have the new assessed valuation.
Well, it should be a lot lower than that. I mean, 100.
And I'm not
three
saying
for-
and I'm not arguing that you're being your assessment is high for what you have.
Yeah, very
But
high.
I think comparing it to anything that, has sold for, and the previous assessment is not the best way
Yeah.
to get it.
See, I can't afford a penny more there. I got shot, had my leg blown apart, then I got an infection. I'm on dialysis now. My bills from the hospital are well over $1 million, so I can't, not one penny more, I can't. And this year's gonna be a lot more. That land, I'm living in my parents' house, that was assessed at okay. This year's gonna be a buffer in case I have bad medical problems down the road. I have something I can sell to have it. I need something because you can't get, I got to stand up in court and tell you can't get a good job if you have a disability. I sat in front of a judge in 2019, and she said the reason they don't hire is because of workman's comp. Something goes bad. So I had a subcontract for like minimum wage. So I have no money set aside for that, and this has to be rectified because I can't, that's going to be a lot higher bill than I can afford.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. My name is Marty from Old Forge, and my question is, I have a duplex. Am I considered commercial or residential in a way that is meaningful to the formal appeal?
It's anything 4 units or like one
2 units.
rental. Anything under 4 units, 3, 2, 1 that are rental properties are considered residential.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Nick Mio. I'm from North Abington Township. I inherited my parents' home, which was done in the 60s, so it's old. They're both dead now. It was built on 1 acre, and early in the 70s, they bought another acre separately, planning on putting another house there, which they never did. Since then, though, North Abington Township has changed the amount of acres you have to have. You have to have 2 acres. I've been getting 2 tax bills. My parents are dead, so I'm getting 2 tax bills. I've been paying them right along, and of course I got assessed, and the land is a crazy number like you guys have been talking about. Isn't there a way I can combine the whole thing, be compliant with North Abington Township, have 1 house on 2 acres of land, and get a realistic assessment?
If you can combine the 2 parcels.
Okay,
You will need an attorney to draft a deed,
okay,
and you may need a surveyor to come out and describe the new meets and bounds dimensions of the property. What effect that will have on your assessment, I don't know, but as you know, when I spoke earlier, I told you about my father. You might not have been here.
yeah, it was. I heard.
My father has a small piece of real estate
Yeah,
that's assessed at $64,000, which makes no sense at all. And Tyler's answer was, we don't have comparables because for vacant land. So that's an issue. I would encourage you to appeal that.
okay. Because the land assessment on the house and it's like huge when you really add it up. It's not even realistic. It's crazy.
And those are some of the holes that we've been
Yeah.
finding with regard to
So
the
my
new
thought
assessment.
was combine it, be compliant with North Abington Township, have the 2 acres, all on 1 deed, be compliant, and get a realistic valuation.
That's a good question, and I would encourage you to consult with an attorney.
Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, Joe Rappenglood from Dalton. I got two easy ones, then a little bit of an editorial. Non-permanent structures, like a carport or like a T-town shed or something like that, do they figure into the assessment? Because they put it on my paper.
Is it no, I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one that they brought in on a flatbed?
Yep.
Put it down?
Yep.
I have not had any cases with that, so I don't know what they considered.
And the other one's just one of those three-sided carports that's
And
just bolted to the ground.
They probably listed on there was maybe a 20 by 14 foot carport,
Mhm.
and they might, it might be considered permanent. As I said, without taking a look, at your
All right.
at your carport. But I know that anything that they brought in on,
Mhm.
except for modular homes or things like that,
Right.
Things like that are not, I would consider,
A
in my
permanent
personal
structure.
opinion, opinion, it would be personal property.
Well, so let me add to that. So I have a shed, same thing, portable shed, that they do assess that. So patios, in-ground swimming pools, decks, outbuildings, they all add to the value. So they do, it is added to your assessment. Now, again, if in an appeal, you can argue the case over the values and the carport and things like that, but they are taken into account.
And just to expand on that, Attorney Pat Lavelle, mentioned that they don't have certified real estate appraisers
Right.
working for Tyler, so they're gonna use everything they can on your property, whether it will hold up to the scrutiny of a formal appeal or before the Court of Common Pleas. That's that's another question.
Okay. Basements. There's finished and basement. But is there a difference between like mine, that's a dirt floor with a stone foundation, compared to a concrete basement with cinder block walls? Does that figure into the appraisal? I think it should.
It figures into an appraisal. I don't know what process the people from Tyler used.
Well, I know he wasn't in my basement, I know that.
No,
for sure.
I know that they weren't in many basements.
They guessed, they
Yes.
said, is there finished or not finished? When we received the informal, before the informal, the status sheet, and they would say, okay, finished basement, you had a chance to correct and say it's an unfinished basement. But they guessed. They haven't been in homes, so a lot of it is guessing by them.
Okay.
How do you put a price on something without looking at it, right? Like, even a comp, like your comp, we can't hear people in the audience.
Yeah,
That's all right.
I agree. The question was, how can you put a price on something when they don't look at it? And that's why I said earlier, when I had a client who got $50,000 reduced from his his fair market value, because he showed, I have an older kitchen, I have an older bathroom, I have this. And that's where you have to take photographic evidence to show, yeah, this is the inside of my house. It doesn't have a finished basement. I only have one bathroom, not three. I only have 2 bedrooms, not 4. Because they guessed. They looked at the side of the house and said, oh, that style probably had 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I mean, a lot of his estimates, but that's the whole process they went through in the beginning, sending out that fact sheet that you had a chance to correct and send back and update. And hopefully everybody went through those processes.
My concern, I think, is similar to what the lady behind me was saying. The millage, to me, it sounds like a crapshoot, because I have to live within my budget. If the millage puts me out of my budget, I can't call Social Security and say, I need a raise, you just raised my taxes. I can't do that. But you can just arbitrarily say, well, this is our budget, so you have to take this millage because that's what our budget is. Do I understand that correctly?
Again, if a municipality has a $100 million budget, they will look at all the assessed values in their municipal area, and They will divide that into $100 million, and that's how you get the millage. The millage, to approve the millage has to go through approval with the commissioners, the county commissioners, with the school district, the school board. When it goes through the borough council, the city of Scranton, the city council. These all have to be enacted. So when Lackawanna County last year raised their rates 33%, they raised the millage up 33% to get that 33% increase on taxes.
Your question, please. Cut my microphone off. Your question is very well placed, and in a sense, you're putting the cart before the horse, because when you don't know the millage, I think it's important to know that Lackawanna County and the school district you live in and the municipality you live in, the revenue they receive after reassessment has to be revenue neutral. It can't be more than they received in 2025. So 2026, under the new assessed values, they can't receive more than they received in 2025. However, there's a rule of thumb that it doesn't mean that your property is going to be revenue neutral. They say a third of the people will pay more taxes, a third will pay less taxes, and a third will stay the same. So countywide, it's revenue neutral, but to each and every one of the individual taxpayers, there is no guarantee that it's revenue neutral, which again is a reason I would encourage everybody to appeal, get the lowest valuation you can, and then wait and see what happens with the millage. And if it's still burdensome, you can appeal again in 2026.
Okay. And the last thing, the school district that I live in went to the state to raise taxes 13%, and I asked questions about that. They couldn't tell me how many people they were going to push into insolvency by doing that. And a woman told me after the meeting, she said, honey, they don't care. Because if they push you into insolvency, the guy who comes in from New Jersey to buy your property, they'll pay the taxes. That's why I've got a little bit of a taste in my mouth for the fixed income and the black magic that goes behind the budget and the millage and everything. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Maureen. I live in South Abington Township. And this is just a very basic question that I've had since all of this started. And especially now finding out that this Tyler Technologies isn't even licensed or certified in Pennsylvania. How were they vetted and how were they chosen and how much are they being paid?
So we heard that they were paid $5 million. Now there's only, I think there's only 2 companies that do, if I remember right, 2 companies that do this kind of work.
That have any experience in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But you said they aren't certified or licensed to do Pennsylvania, so.
No, I think the comment, and Pat, maybe you can clarify it, was that they do not have a certified appraiser on staff that oversaw this process. Is that correct, Pat?
Yes.
So we don't know what their qualifications are other than that fact, but your point's very well taken.
Yeah, and we're paying them $5 million. And I will say, I appealed by writing when I got the first assessment. It was totally wrong. And all the people in my area, not one got a correct assessment of what their square footage was, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. They told me I had a finished basement and a finished attic. I'm on a slab. I don't even have a basement. I went back up at the next opportunity to Jessup, and none of that had really been changed. And the gentleman who was, I was trying to get it changed again, He put all what I had said in his little computer. And then we get this that tells us, but it doesn't tell us what was changed, if anything.
Well, did the number come down from the original one that you received? The
No,
preliminary value?
it went up.
Even after you told them you didn't have a basement?
Yes, I said, I'm not in a mansion, I'm on a slab. So, but when this whole thing came out about, you know, what it is, it didn't tell us what that was based on. So I don't even know if they changed it and it's now correct. And are you saying that's what's on that website? That you
I'm
gave
sorry.
us before, the Lackawanna County website, to go to the assessor? Will it say whether or not the changes I made were actually made?
I don't know that. You would have the right to find that out if you contacted the assessor's office.
Okay.
They were given all that information when Tyler Technologies left town. Remember the 9 scariest words? We're from the government and
Yeah,
we're
we're
here
here
to
to
help.
help you.
Right.
Right. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
another opportunity to question this.
Thank
And
you.
again, that's the more reason to, you know, to appeal these things.
Next.
Now, I've talked to many people that have had their new assessments that showed up in the mail. Some were happy, some said, ooh, that was lower than I expected. Some people that I've talked to said, it's pretty much right on the money. Then there's been quite a few that said this is ridiculous, especially vacant land just with no buildings. They've had some serious problems, and the commercial's been an issue. So there's many out there that are a little bit low, and then there's many out there that people think are correct. So, you know, there's a mix.
I'm Jerry Zawislak from Scott Township Justice, and a couple of questions. One of them is, when I go to schedule an appointment for this new assessment, one of the things it says on the form is that I will drop off my application for the review, and I will then be given a date for the reassessment. And in big red letters, it says that rescheduling will not be allowed. Now, I am going to be out of town for a couple of weeks in August. Is there any way that I can negotiate with them to make sure that they don't go and schedule me when I'm not around?
So I would, being the commissioner, I would say yes. If you contact the assessor's office, tell them when you are available once you submit your paperwork, they should schedule you so that you can attend. If that doesn't work, call my office and I'll make sure that it gets done.
Okay, I was planning to drop it off in person.
That's fine. Drop it off and give them the dates that you are not in town.
The other thing is they're going to schedule them on a first come, first served basis. So if somebody files an appeal tomorrow, they're going to be ahead of somebody who files on July 15th, and they're going to be ahead of somebody who files on July 20th. So the other thing, it won't be a guarantee that it won't be in August, but the later in July that you file, the further out your hearing may be. But obviously, you can't get better than calling the commissioner's office.
Okay. I'll do that as a last resort. Now, the other thing I have is where I live, my closest neighbors have 4 legs and 8 hay. So finding a comparable house or property or something like that is, in my area, is a little bit difficult. But I did manage to find other properties that had sold during the time period that they suggested. These being houses, and I also have vacant land. A property, actually, believe it or not, a little less than a mile away from where I am, had sold during that time period. So I do have those sale prices to use as comparison. But where I am on a private road that has to be maintained by me and one of my neighbors that's close by. We do not have sewer. We do not have public water. We do not have gas. And all of the other properties that I've been able to locate are on township roads or state roads that have, in most cases, at least a gas line, if not water and sewer. They have fire hydrants, which there's no fire hydrants anywhere near I am. We have about a quarter of a mile away, we have a pond that can be used for fire protection. Are all of these valid points to bring up during a reassessment review to say, here's the reason why that particular property sold for a much higher price, whereas my property lacks these and therefore should not be at the same valuation as that other property?
They are all valid concerns that should be considered by the appeals board. They will look at wells, septic systems versus private wells, or versus public water, public sewer. Being on a private road, that's another consideration because you have to maintain the road. The township isn't maintaining. Things like that are very important to the valuation process, and they should be identified.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Thank you. One thing I did want to mention, though, is when the first letter came out, I think it was back in May, like most of the other folks here, they had my house incorrectly defined. They thought it was a colonial. It's not. It's a bi-level. I don't know how they can tell the difference or miss that difference between the two. But anyway, we followed the instructions there for the informal review. We called in to get it scheduled. And one of the options that you had was doing it by phone as versus in person. So we chose in phone, just more convenient to the schedule. We did all of our comparables. We got them all together. We got photographs. I put them all together. We sent in an email. They accepted it. We did the phone review. The person that we talked to said, "Oh yeah, you're right. This is that's correct. This is way too high for this," and so on. And they said, "Now we're going to pass this information on, and later you'll get another letter in June," they said, "and that will have some adjustments to it." There are other people around that I talked to that did the same thing, and then there are still others who decided that they would go the route of in-person interviews. When the letters came back now, all of the folks who did the in-person interviews had reductions. All of the folks who did the telephone reviews stayed exactly the same. I don't know why. I'm just pointing it out, so I don't expect an answer, but I don't know. It's something that you might want to look into. But thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate your answers.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Linda Bonikevich from East Benton, and first I'd like to say to our People's Commissioner, Chris Shermack, who took the time out and takes the time out to care about us and have these kind of meetings so we can talk about this stuff. And to all you intelligent gentlemen that gave your time. So I have two questions. Is there such a thing as an IFP if you're lower income and your assessment $35 fee can be waived?
Informa pauperis, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if anybody's ever run across it on the panel.
Because I think we have a lot of those kind of people here. That could be maybe helped with that fee.
I agree with you. The people who are most concerned about the taxes may be the people who can least afford the filing fee.
Correct.
That's a great point.
Thank you. And my other one is, you're talking about appraisals. Say I had one in 2022 Does that count for now, or do you have to have one now to move forward? Or how long does an appraisal last?
If you had one done during the time period between, that is indicated by the guidelines,
Which is what year?
January 1st, 2022.
The 22? Okay.
If you had it done there, now, they may, it may not be, because they want you to use comparable sales that are also in that time period. So
Okay.
that's what they're looking for. It's not,
Okay.
you may have had it done, but some of the comparable sales may have fallen outside of the timeline that they set as the parameters for submission in your appeal.
So I need a new one.
Well, just, you maybe, I mean, just take a look, or.
Okay.
And they get, in the appraisal, they'll give you the date of the value, and in the grid where it tells you, they'll tell you when the comparable sales sold. So if they are within that guideline, even though it might have been prepared for a different reason, you could attempt to submit that as proof of the value as of that date.
Okay, I'll just bring it along with me and see what happens.
Right.
All right, well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great night.
Thank you. Next.
Mike Janetta, Scott Township. I've been sitting here and just thinking of some procedural questions that perhaps some people in the audience may have, and they haven't asked, but it might be useful information that they have. There's been discussion about the benefit of having an appraisal done. What would the average cost of an appraisal be for somebody if they went out and got one?
I would say, based on the size of the property, the size of the improvement, it would be anywhere between $400 and $600.
Okay.
Single-family residence, just one
And where-
single-family residential. No glamorous outbuildings. Oh, no, my brother lives in this trailer over
Okay.
here, or, because I've gotten burned too many times when they said, oh, it's a simple single-family house, and you get there, and it's something the assessor
Where would
values.
where would somebody go to find an appraiser?
There are, just look in the yellow pages or Google real estate appraisers in
Okay.
Lackawanna County. Make sure that they're certified. That's the only thing I would suggest.
And there's been some discussion about having an attorney going to the formal appeal, and that may scare people. Is it possible for people to just go on their own and not have an attorney?
They can go, and I'm not speaking for the attorneys, they can go and present the appraisal that they have paid for to the Board of Assessment Appeals.
That's a follow-up question I have. If someone went out and got an appraisal done, can they come themselves and present the document, the actual appraisal as their evidence, and not have to have an attorney there?
I would,
Will the board?
I would say yes, but I'm not the attorney.
Will the board
But-
accept just the documents submitted as their evidence?
Mike,
Yes.
so you can represent yourself,
Right.
obviously, if you're capable and confident with your getting your own comparables and utilizing your appraisal. Absolutely, you can. Many people do.
Because I'm trying to put myself in the position of people sitting here in the audience that they're not an attorney, and they may be saying, well, geez, maybe it's a good idea to go and get an appraisal, but I can't afford to go get an attorney. Can I just submit the report? Will the board accept that as my evidence, and can I leave it at that? So I would think that you can just...
I know in the past that has been satisfactory.
Okay.
Since we haven't been through any hearings yet, I don't know what the parameters have been set by the Board of Review.
And it would seem to be in everyone's best interest to do whatever they can to get their assessment down. And what has somebody got to lose other than the $35 to file an appeal?
Yep.
And I know in the past, I mean, I never did it myself, but, I had always heard from people that filed an appeal on their taxes. They went in, and the board worked the deal out, and they reduced the assessment $10,000, $20,000. What are the chances of something like that happening? Of people just filing the appeal, by going in, they'll probably get it reduced somewhat.
Well, there's a chance. We don't know that yet. So actually, I printed out, if somebody wants, I mean, these available on the county website, the residential and commercial applications for for an assessment hearing. Tells you on here everything you need. But many people go without representation. If you're confident, I said, if you're confident enough with your comps and you have the ability to, plead your case,
Mike,
that's not an issue.
I think maybe the way to look at it is, if you do nothing, nothing's going to change. So you do what you can afford to do, you do what you feel comfortable doing, and probably if you get an appraisal, that helps you incrementally. If you get an appraisal and an attorney, that helps you incrementally, but doing nothing doesn't help you at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just seems everybody should do whatever they can to reduce their assessment. Whatever the millage is in the end, if you can get your assessment down, you're going to be paying less in taxes.
Correct.
Mike, good questions. And one of the problems I forgot to mention earlier, not a problem, there's going to be 5 boards of assessment appeals. If you went in front of Board A, you might get a lower amount. You go in front of Board B, nothing is going to be comparable from board to board. That's the problem I see. Nothing's going to be equal. You might get lucky and go before a board that, yeah, you know what, I agree with you.
I guess everything is going to be somewhat subjective, depending on who you get.
Correct.
All right, there are just things I thought that maybe people were thinking about and sitting in the audience. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Good job, Mike.
Good afternoon. My name's Bob Alspaw. I'm sorry I came in late. My wife attended for me, and she didn't ask the one question I wanted answered, and that is, can you use the valuations of other homes for your comparable?
I don't think so, no.
My big issue is...
Well, here's the problem. Everything starting with this reassessment is starting new. So you can't, and until we go through the whole appeal process and that process is settled, and then based on that appeal process, the total assessed valuation of the county is set, until all of that is done, you cannot, you don't know where everybody else stands, because you don't know who's appealed, who hasn't appealed, and what they are. But a valuation is now based on fair market value. It's just based on what the fair market value of your property is. And one of the things that they asked you to do when you submit your request, it should be, excuse me. They want photos and assessed values for the 3 comparable properties that were sold in that period of time. And I think that is something that was probably left over from the previous Board of Assessment Appeals, because you don't know what the assessed value of those properties will be. You know what they were 3 years ago, but you have no way to find out what it is as of June 30th, 2020.
Maybe I wasn't clear enough on it.
Okay.
I live in a townhome, like the lady that was just up here a few moments ago, and I have a house identical to the lady that lives next door to me. Okay, there's $15,000 difference in our assessments. The houses are identical.
In the assessment that you received from the county today, or this last week?
Yes.
They were different, okay.
And that's my big beef, because they're identical.
Right.
Now, my other problem is that I submitted the changes, as that lady a little while ago said. They had me for a finished basement, no finished basement. They had me for 4,000 square feet, and I might have 2,000 square feet. Tyler said they were going to take care of it. I have an email, and they said they'd call me if there were any questions, and now I understand they're not around anymore. Is that correct?
I don't know about that.
Yes. So definitely bring all that information. Bring the if you can get a copy of your neighbor, I would bring that with you, definitely.
Well, I've got my neighbor's letter.
That's what I mean. Bring a copy of that. Bring all your information, and if it's a townhouse that's identical to yours, they have to look at that. Have to.
I thought they were, because that was all disclosed when I sent the information to Tyler.
Well, that's what the assessors board are, to make all the corrections for the inconsistencies. That's in theory, so that's what we're hoping.
Okay, well, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Dan Naylor, Benton Township. First of all, I do want to point out, I believe that Tyler has been paid more than $5 million. At least they put in for more money. That's what I've understood, is that there's a lot more than $5 million being paid to Tyler. The second thing is that Schuylkill County is doing a reassessment at the same time here, and when their people received their letters, they received a tentative millage with it, and they also received, if they had over 10 acres, what clean and green would be. And what this tells me is that Tyler does not have confidence in their numbers. They're not willing to put out a tentative millage at this point in time, because they should be able to figure it. All they'd have to do is hit the one button on the computer and give a total of what the total reassessed for the county is, and then divide it by the amount of money, and they'd have the millage there. So obviously they don't have the confidence in their numbers, and that's a shame for us.
Good point. Thanks, Dan.
Sorry, Rappin Gluck from Dalton again. I want to apologize. I wasn't trying to be combative on the millage black magic thing, but this is where we are. My uncertainty comes in. You said, depending on which board you go in front of, you could get different answers. So what happens if they don't like the look of my face or whatever? In the world that I live in, there should be cut and dried A, B, C. And how come if we spent $5 million of my county tax money to pay these people to do the assessment, how come the burden of proof on the comparables isn't on them? And them show us that, well, we use this house and this house to arrive at this house.
That's a great question. And part of the informal appeal, when you went up to the 911 center, they were supposed to provide you with the comparables. Some people I spoke to were never given the comparables. Some people I spoke to were given the comparables. So again, you get a different person who you meet with, and they give you different information. Some people got them emailed to them, but you're right. They're putting the burden on you to go out and find property sold during that 30-month period.
I want my money back. I'm serious. We paid them to do this, and they can't provide us the comparables. As far as I'm concerned, that's an incomplete assessment.
Again, that's a great point. I sympathize with you, and I agree with you.
PJ, I went up to the Jessup with a client of mine, and I had him ask the question and go over the appraisal that I performed for him. And Tyler had used 2 of the 3 comparables that I used. So I'm not saying that they're perfect or anything like that, but I know that they did due diligence on the whole process. I'm not defending them or anything.
No, I don't disagree with you, Conrad, but not everybody who went up there received those comparables, which then puts them behind the 8 ball today.
I understand that.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rich Paulman, Newton Township, Clark Summit. And I guess my question is for Conrad, when you're doing comparables, and now that we've received the assessment of land and improvements. And the big issue, when we got the first notice of what your taxes were, it was just a number. Now we see what the breakdown of the numbers are. And we're looking at 1 acre lots that your house sits on, 100,000, 120,000. It sounds like these are numbers that have really just been pulled out of the sky. And so you go to an appraiser to get a comparable sale. Is that going to give you the breakdown of land versus the property? Or the house?
It will give you a more accurate representation of the value than I believe Tyler gave you.
Is your question, you want land separate?
Well, I mean,
Right.
no.
When you went, you know,
Yes. We will, when we go through the appraisal process, we will put a specific value on the land, and then we will put a depreciated value on the improvements when you get to the cost approach. So
in a comparable done by a certified appraiser, they will do that breakdown.
They will give you a better idea, a more realistic breakdown than what I have seen being presented by Tyler at this time.
Okay.
I can't give you a guarantee or anything like that.
Because it started out, the original assessment didn't seem too bad. But then seeing this, when a third of the value is in the
Right.
land.
No, I understand.
It doesn't make any sense.
I understand exactly what you said, because when I opened my second letter, I said, oh my gosh, that's just going to open a whole new can of worms. Yeah, that was my first reaction. Why, so I would have to believe if you hire an appraiser to do that, you'll get a more accurate representation, but it's still going to be, I don't know how they're going to look at the total market value combined.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how that's going to be looked at.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Take your time.
Good evening. I'm Jim Regan, and I live in Elmhurst Township. We heard a rather impassioned and very well put together speech earlier about class action suits and that sort of thing. I'd just like to remind everybody in the audience tonight, we have another option, and it comes in November. We need a majority on the council, commissioners, that are, yeah, but everything that's put in place can be reversed. I'd like you to think about that.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Hi.
Hello. I'm not going to sing. Listen, I'm Phil Morara from German, Pennsylvania. I don't have my readers, and my wife wrote the question, naturally. So,
That helps.
oh, you're a doll baby.
Yep.
Okay. On our appraisal, they include, they meaning the assessment board, I guess, 1,125 square feet of porch, non-living area. And there are not any comps for such an area in our area. In other words, where I live, I don't know where I would look. So can I find a house that's juxtaposed, and when it's all done, it's somewhat like my house? I mean, these non-comparables are a problem.
It is a problem, and if you're going to bring comparables, you have to bring the best comparables available. I mean, you can't manufacture a house or manufacture a house with the same square footage, the same porch, the number of fireplaces, is it a
Well, that's what I'm
driveway?
saying.
You have to do the best that you can to find comparable sales. And that's why I found it beneficial when I went up there with my client for the informal review that they had used, they had used some common sense in doing that. But to expect the people, you have to expect the people who are going to be sitting on the Board of Assessment Appeals to realize that, unlike Mr. Oswald, who lives in a townhome, everything's not that simple in Lackawanna County. So you have to bring comparables, as close to your home as possible and as similar, but complete. Go out 1 mile, go out 2 miles, go out 3 miles, till you get to the point where you think the home is comparable to yours, and it's not an easy job.
Well, what is the area that you're supposed to use to find comparables to your home?
Well, they suggest look in your neighborhood within 3 or 4 blocks, then go. I mean, I understand that it's not that easy. And in my business, which I do all the time, I always have to expand the search area and note that the search area was expanded because of the lack of comparables in that area. So I would hope that the people on the Board of Assessment Appeals realize that truism that, hey, no two pieces of real estate are alike, and you have to go as far as you can to find it. Now, one can be, they want to keep you in the same school district. You may have to get to, a school district that's neighboring to get there, but it's not an easy job.
And one thing you mentioned about bringing an attorney to represent you when you make these comps, have you found in your history that a client does better if he does have representation? I would think he would.
Well, I have only attended hearings. I have attended hearings as a member of the Board of Assessment Appeals. I have only attended hearings as an appraiser when I was an expert witness called by an attorney.
Now, these 5 boards that we go in front of, are they local people?
They are residents of Lackawanna County.
Oh, yeah?
I guess that's
good enough.
Okay.
I hope. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be calling you.
Anybody else? Come on down, sir.
My name is Jeff. What is this Homestead Act? I'm out in Newton Ransom.
Use your microphone, just so they can hear you.
The Homestead Act you can go online and look at, but let me just find it.
There's another question. I'm not a computer person.
Okay, me neither. So
I'd
I have to
rather
get
talk
help.
to somebody face to face.
So I can give you a copy of what the Homestead Act is.
Okay.
And it's a Taxpayer Relief Act, Act 1 of special, let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm saying. Special Session 1 of 2006 was signed into law June 27, 2006. The Taxpayer Relief Act provides for property tax reduction allocations to be distributed by the Commonwealth to each school district. Property tax reduction will be through a homestead or farmstead exclusion. Generally, most owner-occupied homes and farms are eligible for property tax reduction. Only a primary residence is eligible for your property relief. So it has to be your primary residence.
Do you have to be zoned agricultural?
No, no.
Okay.
My house, I'm not, and I'm in the homestead. It's my house.
Then I'll grab that paper because I'm not a computer person. See, that's what sucks with this issue too, with a lot of stuff is, like, I don't know, it doesn't matter whether you're old or young. Not everybody's into computers. And, like, I don't want to type out what I want to say to somebody because by the time I spell it back with one finger, they've already responded.
Yeah.
I hate that. And I can't see, like, I can watch you guys here or any people at the board. This guy's one that's been most focused on everybody out here speaking. Some of you guys have your face down at the table, and that just gives us in the audience the impression that you're not interested in what we're saying. And that sucks.
Well, I think we are. So, I put this together to answer questions and give people some ideas of
Right.
how to
And-
follow through this process. So I appreciate my panelists and their expertise and their volunteerism to be here to assist all of you.
Oh, sure, and it's a help.
But I
because,
will
like,
say,
you're answering questions.
I will say, the next step is come to commissioner meetings and rip apart the commissioners, because I'm there fighting for everybody by myself.
See, and
So
on
I
my
need you to
end-
come to commissioner meetings so that that's where we can address some of these things. I'm doing the best I can. Tonight is just a bonus for me to try to get out into the public so you guys could get some
Same for me.
some process on how do you go forward with your reassessment.
Like I started saying before with like these appraisals, if you don't physically see the house, you can't judge what somebody's value is. Like, to me, my place is convenient for me, but for most people to look at it, it's a dump. It's an old place built in the 60s. It's never been updated. It's got paneling inside. I mean, it's got faded old aluminum siding. And to like the Abington standards, it's a shithole.
Well,
but to
I
me,
get
it works for me because
Well,
all I do is I eat, sleep, and shower there.
Well, everybody
And
wants, when
I
there's-
like what's around me,
Anybody
which is
that's
nobody.
selling their house wants to obviously get the most they can and would love to have a high
Yeah.
appraisal. But when you're paying your taxes, you don't really want to get a high appraisal. So I get
No,
it. but,
I want a low
you know,
appraisal because I plan on dying there.
We all do. So come to the commissioner meetings.
So, and for me, that's hard because I work so much.
And if you bring that information, pictures, as the panel has said, to an appeal, that will help you, and you can meet the people who are going to decide your value face to face, which is something I think you want to do. So bring pictures, come armed with all that information, and hopefully you'll get a good result.
Yeah, it's just hard because unless you do stuff later at night, it's hard for somebody to, like, not everybody's a 9 to 5 deal.
I understand.
Like, I went to work yesterday at 6 o'clock last night. I got done today at 3 p.m. And, you know, how do you go to meetings when you work like that? Like, I'm good for between 70 and 85, 90 hours a week. And it's hard to just, and you can't play phone tag with somebody when you're at work. Like, I'll do construction, and it's hard if I took a day off just to go chase all this down, which is going to benefit me, so you have to. But it's hard taking time off of work to do all this.
I understand, but I don't know what
Because
the
everybody's got a job, you know what I'm
I
saying?
don't know what the alternative is.
Oh, it's
And-
gonna suck.
And if you plan on living in your house until you pass away,
Yeah.
it's a good investment of a day or 2 days worth of your time.
Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway.
I
Thank you.
wish you could buy your house and just own it and be done.
That would be nice.
We all
You know-
I think so.
We
Thank
all
you.
do. Thank you.
Keith, we have time for one more question. It's almost 8
I
o'clock.
think we have a
so-
gentleman over here who was waiting.
Okay. Keith, go ahead.
No, I just
Go
meant next, Keith. Come on.
I'll give you both time.
Charles Majeka from Fleetville. Recently, my father passed away, and I'm going to inherit the farm. We had to get it appraised, okay? We had the farm appraised. I received the first round of assessment, okay? I challenged it. I took it down. I took pictures. We took everything. I took the appraisal. I took the copy of the will, everything there that I'm going to inherit the farm. And I got the letter back. And I don't know how good Conrad did the appraisal, so it's a good one. It's double plus of what the appraisal was. So what is the basis of the appraisal or going through the appraisal if it's double plus of the appraisal? I'm going to challenge it again, but like if everybody's going to get appraisals and get attorneys and stuff, and what is the sense of it? You know what I mean? So that's why I just want to bring that up. Like if everybody's going to spend all this money to do stuff. I own 5 properties. I challenged 3 of them. The 3 of them that I challenged came down somewhat. The 2 that I didn't challenge went up. So
Get your appeals in.
I don't
and
know.
we'll-
Like I got to challenge
Well, we
all
hope that
5
we
of
make the
them.
corrections, that's all.
You know, so. And I had pictures and everything else, and it's just, I don't know, like I said, it's very,
Bring it all in.
very tough to, you try to do things right and
Yep.
you try to keep what you have. That's the whole problem. Another question is, where do you apply for clean and green?
You can apply online in the county website.
At the county website?
Yep.
And if I applied now, will that apply to 2006 taxes?
You have until October, I think 15th, but October of this year to apply for clean and green. So I would definitely get in that
Get it
system.
in as soon as you can? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment to fill you in on that. Anybody interested in clean and green, if you research it, you're going to be told that June 1st is the deadline. The exception is in the year in which the reassessment is taking place. So where you read a book or whatever you do, the commissioner's right on target, but it is only for the year of reassessment. My comments would just simply be to recognize the concerns that are being expressed by the individuals here. All legitimate, real strong problems. I have 6 different farm properties. Kind of difficult to find experts on that. Sales, for instance. I challenged one, and they had a $200,000 value on a barn that's 150 years old. And I challenged it, and they did drop that to 125,000. I had been discussing with an individual selling that property, and I didn't even put a value on it. So we have to deal with the system that we have. Main reason I stepped forward tonight is I know everyone on that stage. There's not one of those gentlemen that are not an expert in the areas that they serve in. And you're to be congratulated tonight for giving over 2 hours of time. And if you listened to me, you'd have given probably near 3 hours, because I thought the meeting started at 5:30 and I was here at 5. But it is critically important to pay attention to the experts. And it's also very important to pay attention to where we got here. There was 60 years that we're now paying the price for because leaders did not pay attention during all those years. Now the key is to make certain, in my opinion, that the expressions here by the public, and I know will be expressed by our commissioner, the only commissioner here tonight, is to make certain that everyone has the time necessary to make their arguments. And I have very strong concerns that that time is not going to be there. 100,000 properties? I don't know, but there could be 15 to 20,000 appeals. It's not reasonable to believe you can get that done in that time. The county has had a 33.33% increase. This year, I'm only able to plant half of my acreage because it's rained every 3 days. It's not hard to figure. Our sales are cut in half. Forget about profitability. Our sales are cut in half, and that is if the rest grows. The county should be able to survive on a 33.33% increase and embrace Chris's critical recommendation to delay the implementation to the following tax year so that everyone has the opportunity to be heard, to understand what's happening, and get that job done. Thanks very much.
Well said, Keith, thank you. All right, well, I think we've heard from a lot of concerned taxpayers, and I'm sure there's more out there that may be watching this. And if they do have questions, they can always contact Commissioner Chermak at his office, and he will put you in touch with any of the panelists that are in front of you. Chris, do you have any words to wrap this up?
Yep. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming. I appreciate you taking the time. This is all good information, not only for everyone here, but for us. I want to thank Attorney Lavelle, Attorney Loma, Conrad for stepping up today and helping out. Appreciate it. And I want to thank PJ. He found out 5 minutes before the program that he was going to be moderating, so I appreciate your stepping up. Thanks to Abington Heights High School. I know Justin Crakey's still up in the mezzanine there, taking. Justin, you can go home to your kids now in the next couple of minutes. So appreciate you staying. He's been here all day, but he was the one that made this all work. Oh, we have our. Where's our sheriff? There's our sheriff. Sheriff Johnson, thank you for coming. Appreciate. Yep. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.